else is. Now it's time to talk about what I thought. You should have paid attention and possibly taken some notes on what I mentioned that fellow students thought, because I thought every single one of these, to go back to them, were excellent points. I thought the audience was really smart in what they said, both in third and fifth period. And I think that all of these comments go to the heart of what we're trying to do with the debate: clear speaking, clear reasoning, clear research. And you can pay attention to these points, every single one of you, because some of you will only debate one more time. All of you will debate at least once. Most of you will debate twice. So you should take note of these points and the ones that I'm about to mention. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes these are new. But here's what I thought. I liked that informal survey that Amma was giving. I thought that that was stimulating audience interaction, as I mentioned before. I love to see what we call in the business flowing, and that means taking consistent notes on everything that's being said. So if you are not up in front of somebody speaking, you should be taking notes. Even if you've already given your speech, you might participate in questioning. Even if questioning has already gone by, you might help your fellow student in structuring a rebuttal speech. I liked to see people, debaters, with their heads bowed into their paper, taking notes about everything that everybody said. I noticed this especially with Lexi and Brad during Amma's opening speech, that they seemed very intent on taking notes. Don't just take a note here or there. Just keep writing. Keep taking your notes. That'll help structure your thoughts. I liked strong hand gestures. I thought Amma was doing a very good job of giving strong hand gestures, and you know from me and my teaching approach that I do this quite often. It feels natural to me, and I think it's a little bit more dynamic when you see a speaker that is using their body to emphasize the points of their speech. So I liked it when people were giving strong hand gestures. Now, on the contrary side, moving around nervously sometimes detracts from that. So make sure that your movements seem deliberate and seem to emphasize the qualities of your speech. I also wanted to see some more consistent eye contact. I felt that the eye contact was lacking at points, and we already talked about that. Practice and understanding of the content can help you make that eye contact. I heard a lot of students whispering, mumbling answers and questions during the cross-examination period. Speak those questions loudly and clearly. Don't mumble them. And if you're reading from a list, you can still read in an effective and lively manner. So make sure that you are speaking forcefully and loudly, such that everybody in the audience can hear you, and your opponents are very aware not only of what the question is, but that you are very serious about the question. It not only helps people understand, but it strikes a strong tone. So make sure you're speaking loudly and clearly. I want to hear an opening with a warrant. Some of you did this, some of you didn't. Jasmine in period 5 did an excellent job of talking about principles and values and morals and issues that we should consider at the heart of her case. But I didn't see that in all the constructive speeches. I'd like to hear constructive speeches that begin with a warrant. I gave you an example with my federal smoking ban speech, and in 5th period I carried a constructive speech that focused mostly on the warrant and talked about principles involved at the heart of the case. Evidence. This is another big one. Along with using a warrant and clearly presenting a warrant, I want to hear more evidence. I thought everybody was a bit light on evidence. So you included a couple points, but not always as clearly as I might like. And I'll take an example from Alex in 5th period. When you have evidence in a case, you need to clearly cite it. So Alex was saying that surveys showed, and that's excellent. He's talking about evidence of surveys that show data that he can use to support his case. However, Alex, you needed to mention where those surveys came from. I call this tagging. It's kind of like citing, but it's in the sentence. If you were to say, according to the National Institutes of Health, in their studies, they showed that, just mention the organization, the person, the university, whatever, authored the research that you use. Use research more often, and cite that research, tag that research. It'll help immensely. It'll add to your authority. I like when debaters use their partner's notes. Students were asking me about this. Can we use our partner's notes? Of course. This is a teamed debate. It's a team effort. You should share material whenever possible. You should share those notes and share those responsibilities. Good partnered debate is team debate. It's teamwork. So help each other out during questioning, asking and answering questions, and in preparing a rebuttal speech. Give notes, pass little messages to one another, thoughts. That's teamwork. And even though you're being graded independently, you can work as a team during the debate. I like to see that, and I'd like to see it used consistently. This is also very important. On the rebuttal, I'd like to hear a point-counterpoint structure. And that means that the rebuttal speech will go like this. After you've given an introduction, a couple sentences to begin your speech, you say, "Our opponents said this." And then you remind me, the judge, of something that your opponent said. You give me a fact, a statistic, an assumption, an assertion, something that they gave in their case, either in their rebuttal or their constructive, or possibly even in the answer to a question. Our opponent said this. And then you say, "But we think that's wrong for this reason." You give your counterpoint. And that way, you go point by point on their speech and you destroy, hopefully, the assumptions, the facts, the evidence that they've provided. Now, the counterpoint works best when it is evidence-based. So, giving a rough hypothetical example, I might say, "Our opponents said this. However, we found a research study from such and such an organization that demonstrated this." And then you discuss that study and its evidence, and you show how it destroys the point. A point counterpoint structure is almost essential in rebuttal. It shows that you are paying direct attention to somebody else's speech, and you're trying to use the evidence and your understanding of the case to defeat their points. That can only be done with very effective notes. So go back to the flowing comment that I made earlier. You take notes and then you comment on the key portions of their argument. I want to hear a strong conclusion on rebuttal speeches. So don't just drift off at the end of a rebuttal speech. Don't just say, "And yeah, I guess I'm done." End strongly by saying something like, "And that's why we stand before you to support this resolution or to oppose this resolution," or say something like, "And Judge, that's why we think our opponents are wrong today, and that's why we think that you should agree with us and vote for us." Something strong that reminds me of what I should do as a judge, that tries to pressure me almost slightly into voting for you and your case. Give me a strong conclusion. So, that's what I thought about the debates. I was very happy with what was going on. I thought a lot of you have put forth some excellent effort. I know it was very scary for some of you, and I admire you for giving it a shot. You will have other opportunities. As you can see from the scheduling board, we have many other debates scheduled, and I'd like you to take these comments into consideration when you're preparing your debate and when you're working. So hopefully you've got some notes down, and you have those notes that you can keep in your binder for before and after the debate. It'll not only make it more effective, but some of these pieces of advice can make it easier for you as well. So keep that in mind. And don't forget about the schedule of debates for next week. Make sure that you know exactly when you're debating. Now, normally I would offer the opportunity for questions, but since I'm not here, at least during third period, that's not going to work very well. During fifth period, of course, Mrs. Kozak and you can have a discussion on some of these points. But for the remainder of the class period, since I'm not there, I would like you to take the opportunity to meet with your debate partners. I know I said that Wednesday was the last time, but you have a little bit of extra time today because I'm not in, and you can possibly put some of these pieces of advice into practice. Maybe do a little bit more brainstorming, maybe make sure that you have enough research, and if not, think about what research you might want to develop. You can talk with your opponents if you'd like, but connect and make sure that you, once again, for the final time, are ready for the debates that are coming up. And if you have questions, burning questions, you can email me, of course, or ask me briefly when we return next week. Thanks. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.